The knock came at 9:47 p.m., sharp and unexpected, slicing through the quiet like a warning. Emily Carter froze in her kitchen, her hand still wrapped around a warm mug of tea. Nothing good ever arrived that late. Outside, rain poured hard, soaking the porch light and turning the street into a blur of shadows. Inside, the house felt suddenly too still, as if it was holding its breath. "Daniel," Emily said calmly, though her heart had already started racing. "Stay where you are. I'll get it." Her husband looked up from the couch, confused. "Who could that be?" "I don't know," she replied. And that was the truth. At least the version she could say out loud. Emily walked to the front door. Every step heavy, her thoughts moving faster than her feet. She didn't know why she felt nervous. They hadn't been expecting anyone. No neighbors ever stopped by this late. Yet something deep inside her whispered that this moment mattered. She opened the door. A woman stood on the porch. Rain dripping from her hair and coat, her face pale but familiar. Too familiar. "Hi, Emily," the woman said softly. "I'm sorry to come like this." The world tilted. "Rachel," Emily whispered, the name tasting like an old memory she thought she had put away for good. Rachel. Bennett had not been part of Emily's life for years. Not since before the wedding. Not since before the promises and shared routines and quiet nights that defined marriage. Rachel was Daniel's past, the one chapter that had never fully closed, even though no one talked about it. "You're soaked," Emily said quickly, stepping aside before she could overthink it. "Come in." Rachel hesitated for half a second, then crossed the doorway. The warmth of the house hit her instantly. But it did nothing to calm the storm inside her. From the living room, Daniel stood up. Their eyes met Rachel. He said, stunned, "I didn't plan this," Rachel said quickly, her voice shaking. I didn't know where else to go." Emily closed the door behind her. The sound echoed louder than it should have. 3 people stood in the same space, bound by shared history and unspoken feelings. No one knew where to look. Rachel's appearance told a story without words. The tired lines around her eyes. The way she held her bag like it was the last thing keeping her upright. This was not a woman chasing trouble. This was someone running from it. Emily gestured toward the couch. "Sit down." They did. Rain continued to fall outside as Rachel spoke. She had moved back to town recently. A marriage that ended quietly but painfully. A job that disappeared. Friends who lived far away. Each sentence was short, controlled, as if she was afraid that too much honesty might break her. "I didn't come for Daniel," Rachel said at one point, looking directly at Emily. "I swear." Emily nodded. She believed her, or at least she believed Rachel wasn't lying to herself. Daniel barely spoke. When he did, his voice was gentle, careful. He asked how long she'd been back. If she was safe. If she had a place to stay. Rachel shook her head. "Just tonight. That's all I needed." Emily watched her husband closely. She didn't see longing. She saw concern, and that somehow made things harder. Time passed strangely. Minutes stretched, then vanished. Finally, Rachel stood up. "I shouldn't have come," she said. "I'll find a hotel." "No," Emily said before she could stop herself. The word surprised even her. "You can stay here. The guest room is free." Daniel turned toward her, shocked. "Emily, it's fine," she said firmly. "One night?" Rachel's eyes filled with emotion, but she didn't cry. "Thank you." Emily showed her the guest room down the hall. Clean sheets. A lamp left on. When Rachel closed the door, Emily stood there for a moment. Her hand resting on the frame, feeling the weight of her decision settle in. Back in the living room, Daniel spoke quietly. "Are you sure about this?" Emily met his gaze. "We're not running from the past," she said. "We're facing it." That night, Emily lay awake, listening to the house. Every small sound felt louder. She wondered what Rachel was thinking in the room across the hall. She wondered what Daniel remembered. Mostly. She wondered why opening the door felt like opening something inside herself she hadn't known was still vulnerable by morning. Nothing would be the same. And deep down, Emily knew it. The morning sunlight spilled into the kitchen, cutting through the tension that had settled over the house like fog. Emily was already up, hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, staring out the window at the quiet suburban street. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and sharp. But inside, the atmosphere was heavy, still charged from the night before. Rachel had stayed in the guest room, and though the house seemed normal, Emily could feel the unspoken weight of the past pressing in. Daniel entered quietly, leaning against the counter. His eyes held questions, but also something softer, a mix of relief and uncertainty. "Morning," he said, his voice low. "Did you sleep at all?" Emily shook her head slightly, a small smile playing on her lips. "Not really. You—" "Same," he admitted. "It's strange having her here." Emily nodded. "It is, but it's temporary. She's leaving today." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, still trying to process the emotions from last night. "I didn't expect to see her again. Not after all these years." "And yet she came," Emily said softly. "People sometimes return to places they think they belong, even when it's messy." Breakfast passed in an awkward rhythm. Rachel had joined them, careful, polite, as though she were a guest in someone else's life, rather than a person who once had been a part of it. She spoke briefly about a hotel she had checked into nearby. Her voice calm, but her eyes betrayed a mix of nostalgia and regret. Emily listened, paying attention to the subtle changes in Daniel's expression as Rachel recounted small stories. From their shared past stories she had never told Emily before. Emily could see Daniel's emotions flicker, memories surfacing like shadows in the sunlight. Not longing exactly, but recognition. Memories of laughter, late-night talks, and moments that had shaped him before she existed. She didn't feel jealous. Instead, she felt the sharp edge of awareness. The past was a living thing, and Rachel had just woken it up. Later, Emily found herself standing by the window, watching Rachel from across the room. Rachel had stepped out onto the porch for a moment, letting the sun dry her hair. She looked different in the daylight, softer, more human, and less like a ghost from the past. "You don't hate me," Rachel said suddenly, her voice carrying over to Emily. "No," Emily replied honestly. "But I need to know why you came back." Rachel took a slow breath. "I didn't come for Daniel. I came because I was lost. Life didn't turn out the way I hoped. And seeing him again, it reminded me of who I used to be." Emily nodded, understanding more than she expected. "Love doesn't disappear," she said quietly. "It changes. Sometimes it fades. Sometimes it becomes a memory that teaches you who you are." The hours passed with small conversations, cautious smiles, and silent observations. Rachel didn't overstay her welcome, but she also didn't rush. It was as if the house itself was mediating between the present and the past, giving everyone time to process. When it was finally time for Rachel to leave, Emily walked her to the door. Rachel carried a small bag, her movements deliberate, almost hesitant. She turned to Emily and smiled softly. "Thank you," she said. "You're stronger than you think. And you've chosen wisely." "Okay," Emily returned the smile, a mixture of relief and sadness in her eyes. "So are you. Go find your place in the world." Daniel came up behind her, placing a reassuring hand over hers. His touch was steady, grounding her after the whirlwind of the morning. "I chose you," he said simply. "Every day." Emily believed him. She knew that love wasn't about erasing the past or pretending it didn't exist. It was about understanding what matters most and being willing to protect it. The past could visit, it could knock. It could even stir old feelings, but the present was theirs. And they had chosen it together. As the door closed behind Rachel, Emily leaned against it, taking a deep breath. The rain from the night before had left the air clean, and now the sunlight bathed the house in warmth. It felt like a new beginning, quiet but meaningful. She looked at Daniel, who smiled back, eyes full of certainty and trust. Some doors, Emily realized, were never just doors. They were tests of strength, of patience, of trust. And when you open them carefully, when you navigate the storm they bring, you find out not only who the people around you are, but who you really are. That night, As the house settled into calm, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known she was missing. The past had knocked, yes, but they had faced it together, and in that, they had found something deeper: clarity, love, and the quiet power of staying when it mattered most. The rain returned softly, tapping against the windows, but it no longer felt like an omen. It felt like life moving forward, fresh, clean, and full of possibility. And Emily knew that some doors, once opened, could teach you more about love than years of quiet, safe routine ever could, even in the quiet. She felt the pulse of change, the kind that didn't shake the foundations but strengthened them. And with Daniel by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next, together.